Okay, let's talk about the year 2026. Because right now, we're in an economy that seems pretty resilient on the surface, but underneath, AI is completely rewriting the rules. And the real story isn't just that AI is here to stay. It's about the huge new divides it's creating, the new winners, and the new losers. We're going to dive into what this new reality actually looks like.
Look, you've heard it a million times. AI is changing everything. And yeah, that's true. But it kind of misses the most important part. The real nitty-gritty story for 2026 is how AI is changing the rules of the game. It's redefining who gets to capture value and how they do it. And if you can get your head around that mechanism, you can basically see the future before it even happens.
So let's start by knocking down the biggest misconception. The popular metaphor is that AI is like electricity. A utility that's just going to flow everywhere and lift all boats equally. It's a nice thought, but it's wrong. The 2026 reality is a lot messier. A much better way to think about it is that AI is a brand new industrial supply chain. And like any supply chain, it has gatekeepers, it has bottlenecks, and it creates these massive compounding advantages for whoever controls it.
In this supply chain framework, honestly, it's the key to understanding everything else we're going to talk about. It is the hidden engine that's deciding how value gets created and, way more importantly, where all that value ends up.
Now, what's really fascinating here is how this supply chain actually breaks down. So at the top, you've got distribution. That's about who owns the customers, who owns the workflows. In the middle, you have the AI models themselves. But the most strategic layer, and the one that people almost always forget, is at the very bottom, the physical layer. We're talking chips, data centers, and the raw energy you need to power the whole shebang. And this really nails the fundamental shift in thinking. For all of human history, intelligence was something to be discovered. Now it's something that is manufactured. And just like manufacturing a car, it has physical inputs. You need compute, you need electricity, you need cooling. How well you manage those inputs literally determines your cost of creating intelligence.
Okay, so let's get practical. How does this new supply chain create that first massive divide between winning and losing companies and between winning and losing workers? This is where the rubber really meets the road for most of us. So, here's the absolute crucial point. The winners aren't just the folks who use AI. Summarizing a document or drafting an email, that's just convenience. It's a feature. The real winners are the ones who redesign their entire way of doing things around AI, treating it like a whole new operating system. That's how you get those mind-blowing collapses in cycle time and explosions in productivity.
So you're probably wondering, what do these winning companies look like? Well, they tend to fall into three buckets. First, you've got the companies that already have massive distribution and tons of data. They can just plug AI right into their existing workflows. Second, you have the infrastructure kings, the ones who control that physical layer of chips, cloud, and energy. And third, and this one's a bit of a dark horse, companies in super regulated fields like finance or healthcare. They can turn all that complex compliance and safety stuff into a massive competitive advantage.
All right, now for the uncomfortable part. The biggest losers here aren't the people who refuse to learn how to use AI. No, the real risk is for businesses and workers who operate as a kind of human middleware layer. If your main job is to connect two systems, to translate, to summarize, or to just produce the first draft of something, well, AI is aimed directly at the core of what you do. And the scale of this it's just staggering. The IMF did an analysis and found that in advanced economies, something like 60% of all jobs are exposed to AI transformation. Now, that doesn't mean 60% of jobs are gonna vanish overnight, but it does mean a huge chunk of what people do every day could be automated or just fundamentally changed.
And here's the brutal reality of that. AI is incredibly good at routine, structured tasks. And what are those tasks? They're the bulk of most entry-level jobs. So when you automate those, the first rung of the traditional career ladder, it just breaks. It's gone. Which means we have to completely rethink how we bring people up and train new talent.
Now, let's zoom the camera all the way out, because this isn't just about companies and jobs. This same supply chain dynamic is playing out on the geopolitical stage. The AI supply chain is creating a second great divide, this time between entire nations.
And you can see two clear camps forming. On one side, you've got the AI consumer nations. They basically import their intelligence. They use foreign models running on foreign clouds. It's a lot like a country that has to import all of its oil. But on the other side, you have the AI producer nations, and they are racing to build their own sovereign capability, their own talent, their own compute, and their own energy infrastructure.
And at the end of the day, the economic stakes could not be clearer. It's the difference between paying rent on intelligence forever versus being the one who captures the margin.
The producer nations are the ones who are going to create the new profit pools and become magnets for the best talent. It's no wonder AI sovereignty is suddenly a huge part of industrial policy all over the world.
Okay, that was the macro view. I know it's a lot to take in. So let's bring it all the way down to you. What does all this mean for your career, for your business? How do you make sure you end up on the winning side of these divides?
So if we look at who's winning, 5 archetypes really stand out. You've got the compute landlords who own the raw infrastructure, the workflow owners who are masters at embedding AI into how people work, the regulatory winners who turn rules into a shield, the data flywheel builders whose products just get smarter and smarter, and finally the energy and grid modernizers, the people providing the juice for this whole revolution.
And on the flip side, the losing archetypes are just as clear. You have businesses that treat AI like a shiny new feature instead of a total redesign. You have workers whose main value is just producing that first draft. On a bigger scale, you've got countries who get left behind because they can't build their own AI capability. And frankly, any organization that can't get a handle on trust and safety is playing with fire. One big mistake can be fatal.
So what's the playbook for you as an individual? It's really a 3-step process. First, your job is to define the right problem to solve. That's a human skill. Second, you use AI as a leverage tool to just crush the time it takes to get from an idea to an actual output. And third, and this is the most important part, you apply the judgment, the context, and the ethics that a machine simply does not have.
If you remember one thing from this, let it be this. In the 2026 economy, producing a first draft of literally anything, a piece of code, a report, a marketing plan, is going to be dirt cheap. What becomes incredibly expensive, and therefore incredibly valuable, is high-quality human judgment. And hey, if you're a leader, your playbook is just as straightforward. Don't start with the shiny new tech. Start with a real business bottleneck. Measure your success not with hype, but with hard numbers like cycle time and quality. Build your safety and trust guardrails from day one, not as an afterthought. And please, treat training your people like a critical capital investment, not just another expense.
When you step back from it all, you realize this is about more than just technology. The choices we're making right now matter. A lot. We can choose to use AI to augment our workers, to make them better, more productive, and more valuable. Or we can just use it for substitution to cut costs. This isn't just a tech cycle, it's a moral test.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. As we barrel towards 2026, the question you need to ask yourself isn't whether you're an AI believer or an AI skeptic. Honestly, that doesn't matter. The only question that matters is this: can you strategically position yourself, your company, and your career on the side of the line where intelligence is being created and not just consumed?